Jim Lenaham. Jim is a past faithful navigator for our assembly here. And Jim, I'd like you to introduce our speaker then, would you please?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You know, we talk about, this is really a great nucleus of people here in this room. Active Catholics, what's better than to have the clergy here and our deacons? And just a reminder, we need to pray for vocations every day. And the diocese is doing really, really well, so that's very cool. And I can tell you, before I got here, I was really praying if anybody saw that Marquette game, because Marquette almost lost. So prayer is a wonderful thing. And the guy that I was sitting next to watching the game, he said, "They're not going to lose this game." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because we have a Jesuit Pope." Anyway, good evening, everyone. Good evening to our clergy, our deacons, Sir Knights, and our ladies of Holy Hill Assembly. It's really with great honor and privilege to introduce to you our speaker for this evening. Many of you maybe have not seen Bob Dolan over the years, but I can assure you that many of you have heard that familiar voice over the years on the airwaves in Milwaukee radio for WISN. Bob Dolan was the primetime morning drive host on WISN 11:30 a.m. for many years. Bob retired from that profession a few years back and started a very successful TV and special series production company that deals with all kinds of issues and did a great job with some Catholic issues with the Archbishop and professional baseball players that are active in the Catholic faith, things like that. Very, very exciting. But the real neat thing about Bob Dolan is the fact that he is a writer and he has published several books. And as many of you know, Bob has a famous brother that has done very well leading the Catholic Church here in Milwaukee and also as Cardinal of New York. Bob knows a few things about his brother Timothy and has penned them in his books and works titled Life Lessons from My Life with My Brother. Bob also wrote and published another book called Waking Patrick, a book of fiction. So I'm sure Bob has many stories to share with you tonight, from growing up in St. Louis with a really cool brother that I'm sure they used to, duke it out, to watching him become a priest, then a bishop, then archbishop, and now one of the princes of the church as cardinal. Please join me in welcoming Bob Dolan this evening. Bob?
Thanks, everybody. How you all doing? All right. Thank you, Jim. Thanks especially, Jim, for rubbing it in that we have a Jesuit Pope. I hear that some people in the room tonight weren't sure this time last week that I would be here tonight, huh? As the conclave was unfolding, and I got a couple of emails and a couple of calls from folks saying, "Are you going to be in Rome?" We still have our dinner, remember? I never had any plans to go to Rome, unless, of course, the impossible would occur, that I would have been to Rome, and then I would have Skyped all of you from Rome tonight. So I didn't forget you. But it's nice to be here. It's especially nice to be here on Clergy Night. I'm honored to be here on Clergy Night. Obviously, I have a special fondness for all members of the clergy, and I thank each and every one of you for your vocation, so I'm glad to be in your company tonight. I do come tonight with a great conversation starter. And some people have pulled me aside tonight and said, "Bob, what did you do to your arm?" About 3 weeks ago, I was playing racquetball, and as I get older, I just get clumsy. And the shot was over my head, so I was backing up to try to get the shot, and as I was backing up, I tripped over my own feet, and I fell backwards, and I went to brace my fall, with this arm, and I need to work on the bracing my fall thing, apparently, because I shattered my arm in 4 places. I go now. I tell the story because I don't want sympathy. There's a story. So I go to the doctor, obviously, right from the YMCA, and they take X-rays. And the doctor comes in and has to put the cast on, and he says to me, "What color do you want your cast?" And now, last time I had a broken bone, I was like 8 years old, and the only colors you could choose was white. And I said, "What do you mean? What colors do I want?" So he literally gets out a book, like a catalog, and he starts going through the colors of a cast. And when I got to one particular color, I stopped him. I said, "That's what I want. I want conclave red." My little way of trying to support my brother during the conclave didn't work very well, but I got conclave red on for you tonight. I know we got lots to talk about. In particular, the conclave. Everywhere I go recently, people want to talk about the conclave before and after. But first, I'll tell a few stories from growing up with my brother. One thing I always find, and I know a lot of people here in the room have met me before, perhaps have seen me before, but when I travel, one thing I get a lot is, "You don't look a thing like him." And I usually say, "Thank you very much." I was in California a couple of weeks ago, and a woman says, "Well, you're obviously the younger brother." I bought her dinner right away. And then another one comes up and says, "Well, you're not as," and she's looking for the right word. I can see, "You're not as," and she started looking me up and down. "You're not as big as your older brother." I bought her dinner too. My book is called Life Lessons from My Life with My Brother, Timothy Cardinal Dolan. And it's just full of lots of stories, and I'll tell some of them tonight. About 6 months ago, he calls me from New York. I'll save the conclave for the last. He calls me from New York and he says, "Bob, the strangest thing the silliest thing has just happened out here. Some magazine out of New York has just named me as one of the 3 most influential people in all of New York." And he sort of laughs, you know how he does. He laughs and he chuckles at himself. He says, "Isn't that crazy?" I said, "Well, that's pretty cool. 1 of 3 in New York." I said, "Who are the other 2? And he says, "One is Mayor Michael Bloomberg." I said, "Well, like him or hate him, he's influential. That makes sense." I said, "Who's the 3rd? He says, "The 3rd is Lady Gaga." And he laughs. And then he says, "Bob, who's Lady Gaga?" Which didn't surprise me at all, because his musical taste, if it's anything past Frank Sinatra and the Mills Brothers, he has no idea what you're talking about. About a year ago, I go to my mailbox and I pull out Time magazine. And I didn't know this was coming, but it was their annual issue of the 100 most influential people in the world. I always bring it just to show people that it's true. And there's all these small little photographs on the cover. And I'm glancing at it, and I see the usual suspects. The president's on there, and Hillary's on there, and Tim Tebow's stuck down there, and Matt Lauer's up there. And then I look way over on the right, and I see the small little picture of somebody who looks an awful lot like my older brother. And I'm saying, "Now you've got to be kidding me. One of the 100 most influential people in the world? Now give me a break." I mean, anything he's accomplished has really not surprised any one of his family members. But this sort of blows you away. So I go inside and I call him. And I said, "Tim, what in the world?" I call him Tim, by the way. I get that question all the time. "What do you call your brother?" "Well, I call him Tim." In public, we call him Archbishop. In private, I call him lots of things that I can't discuss today. I said, "Tim, what in the world is going on? I just got my Time magazine, and I see that you're one of the 100 most influential people in the world? What's that all about?" He says, "Well, don't be too impressed." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, Honey Boo Boo finished 88th. So it can't be too hard of a list to make." And then I said, "Who's Honey Boo Boo?" We have sort of this. Now, a year ago, it's hard to believe it's been a year since consistory. And I know some people here in the room were at consistory. What a remarkable week. Jim and Julie were there. Who else was there? Anybody else? Way in the back, your father? What a remarkable week. Hectic week. You were always on the run, an emotional week, but consistory day itself, all right? So he is one of 22 men to enter the College of Cardinals. And I don't know if you saw some of the highlights or even watched it live. I know it was live here in Milwaukee about 2, 3 a.m. So Pope Benedict is up on the high altar of St. Peter's Basilica, and one by one they call up the name of the man about to receive the red hat. And each one of them, when his name was called, they'd walk up the steps very piously and hands folded and very slowly up the steps as they should. And then when they called out Timothy Michael Dolan from New York, he literally sprinted up the steps. Now, you know my brother. Sprinting is a word not normally associated with him. He sprints up the steps to greet Pope Benedict XVI. After the Mass, I said, Tim, what was that all about? You literally ran up the steps and everybody else walked up so piously. And he says, well, I wanted to get there before he changed his mind. We grew up outside of St. Louis, small town St. Louis called Baldwin, Missouri. And at the time, Baldwin, Missouri, now he was born in 1950, and my mom and dad moved out there in the late 50s. So at the time, Baldwin, Missouri was like Mayberry. And I know a lot of people think that about their small hometown, but ours truly, you knew everybody. And you took care of everybody. And in Baldwin, because it was just a small town just starting to grow, there was only one Catholic school and Catholic parish, and that was Holy Infant. So that's where we all went to school. And Holy Infant was taught by the Irish nuns, directly from Ireland. They went to Holy Infant the first year that my brother was in kindergarten. They on occasion they spoke Gaelic because they didn't understand English. And my brother tells us that they're great examples to my brother, and to this day, two of them, who are both in their 80s, are still very dear friends of Cardinal Dolan's. But he tells the story, he went trick-or-treating to the convent, the nuns' first Halloween in America. They had no idea what Halloween was. So Tim and a group of his buddies are at the front porch, and they knock on the door, and Mother Gertrude answers the convent door, and she says, yes, can I help you? And all the kids yell out, trick or treat. And Mother Gertrude says, I'm sorry, what's trick or treat? What are you talking about? And one of the kids, the lion, I think, says, well, it's Halloween in America, so we sing a song or we tell a joke, and then you're supposed to give us something to eat. That's how it works. So she says, oh, okay, I get it now. And she says, excuse, she goes back into the kitchen in a couple minutes, comes back, they tell a joke, they sing a song, and she pulls out a hot apple pie from the oven and starts to pull off slices of apple pie into their little pillowcases. I mean, all they said was something to eat. And then the other nun, Sister Rosario, puts a la mode on top of it. So they clearly didn't grasp the meaning of Halloween. We've got priests here in the room, so please raise your hands. Did you, when you were growing up, when you were a kid, did you play Mass at home? Yes or no? You did. You played Mass, so like you're 13, 14, Father Pat, right? You're playing Mass at home? Yeah. Well, we did that all the time. But see, Tim's the oldest. There's 5 of us in the family. He's the oldest. So, as in any family, oldest kid rules. He always knew he wanted to be a priest. In fact, he tells the story, he's about 6, and he went to spend the weekend with my mom's mom, our grandma. We call her Grandma Nani Lou. And he goes to Mass, a Sunday Mass with Nani Lou, and Nani says they walk into church, and Tim grabs Nani by the hand and walks her up to the front pew. She thinks, well, that's, for a 6-year-old, that's sort of weird in the first place. And then Nani says the entire Mass, my brother was just fixated on the priest, listened to his every word, and watched his every move. And when Mass was over and the priest walked off the altar, my brother taps Nani Lou on the shoulder and says, when I grow up, that's what I want to be. And he swears to this day that from the time he could walk, talk, and think, he knew he was going to...